I read each sentence and let us see what. So he is telling Arjuna has mistaken the body, mind, life for the real fact. And that is not true. It's the soul that is the real fact and not the body, mind, life. Because the body, mind, life will die, but the soul will never die. So that is the real fact. And then he says, so you have to live in the spirit and not in the body. That's what he says. Now I read the next sentence. Whoever is subject to grief and sorrow, a slave to the sensations and emotions, occupied by the touches of things transient, cannot become fit for immortality. So, very clear. We always think that what is happening to us, if someone hits you, you have sorrow. It's very natural. There's nothing unnatural about it. That's what we feel. But actually it is not. You have the power to absolutely be unaffected. That's what it is. So whoever is subject to grief and sorrow, and also not only grief and sorrow, but also pleasure. Okay, if you are subject to pleasure, then you are a slave to the body and the sensations and emotions, and you are occupied by the touches of things transient. These things are all transient. That which comes to you, you have to be touched by things which are not transient but permanent. Not sorrow and grief, not pleasure but ananda. That is permanent. Okay, so that's what you have to do. A slave to the sensations and emotions. We never think of it as slave. Even sleep and food, we think it is so natural. What is wrong with it? There is nothing wrong. But you are actually being forced to sleep and forced to eat. Okay, you are a slave. And emotions occupied by the touches of things, transient. And if you are subject to that, you cannot become fit for immortality. Very clear statement. These things must be born. What are these things? The outward touches. Okay, the outward touches of things. Surendra has not used the word outward here, but occupied by the touches of things, transient. He has added the word transient because that means outward. Okay, so even inner touches of things, they are all transient. Cannot become fit for immortality. These things must be born until they are conquered, till they can give no pain to the liberated man. The liberated man loses his identification with body, life and mind, and the body, life and mind will continue to have sorrow and pleasure and everything, and it will be subject to sleep and food and all, but you will be free. The consciousness is the you. So you will come out and you will not be subject to the body, mind, life. You will be liberated and there will be therefore no pain. Till he is able to receive all the material happenings of the world, whether joyful or sorrowful, with a wise and calm equality. So, ultimately, everything in the physical world, even when what earlier you thought was painful or unpleasant, now start becoming pleasant. Okay, so that's the third stage. The first stage is you become free from the sorrows and pleasures. But you are free, but the body will continue to have sorrow and pleasure. But when you go to the third level, the second level is the one that you are liberated. But this liberation also is of two types. Liberation of the soul and liberation of Purusha and liberation of Prakriti. The liberation of Prakriti cannot come unless you go to the third level. The third level is the supermind, and there, of course, you can have touches of the supermind temporarily for some time, and even your body, mind, life will respond to that, but temporarily, only in bits and pieces, but not permanently. Nobody has been able to do that permanently as yet, but that is also possible. So, till he is able to receive all the material happenings of the world, very clear, material happenings, whether joyful or sorrowful, with a wise and calm equality, even as the tranquil eternal spirit, secret within us, receives them. So you are absolutely unaffected by either pleasure or sorrow. To be disturbed by sorrow and horror as Arjuna has been disturbed, to be deflected by them from the path that has to be travelled. He has to travel the path of the Kshatriya, and he is not doing that. To be overcome by self-pity and intolerance of sorrow and recoil from the unavoidable and trivial circumstance of the death of this body, this is an un-Aryan ignorance. Note interestingly, self-pity. Because Arjuna may be thinking that I am being so noble, I am thinking of the others dying. Actually, it's a self-pity. You are, I will be without support, I will be without family, I will be, my values also will go. It's egoism, self-pity and intolerance of sorrow. I don't want sorrow, but you have to learn to be free of sorrow. This is the un-Aryan ignorance. When you think that, when you are subject to these things, un-Aryan ignorance. The word Aryan we have discussed now the other day. The Ar is the root in Sanskrit, which means to plow the field. And when you are plowing the field, you are preparing the farm, the earth, for fertility, for fecundity. Okay. So this is what you have to do. Your own ground, which is your nature, has also to be plowed. All the weeds have to be taken out. All the proper the ground has to be prepared. That is the yoga. Okay, that's what you have to do. So the word Aryan is very interesting. The one who is prepared is the Aryan. The one who is not prepared is the un-Aryan. It is not the way of the Aryan climbing in calm strength towards the immortal life. So, we can read the next one now. There is no such thing as death. So, Arjuna is expecting advice as to what to do and what not to do, but he is telling him that no, at your level there is no solution. So you have to go to the next level and there you will find the solution. So he starts telling him about the transience of the body, what is the soul, what is the soul is not, it cannot be made wet, it cannot be dried, it cannot be burnt. So it is eternal forever. All this knowledge which Arjuna does not have, he is going to give him now. Very, very fundamental spiritual truths. So let's read the next one. Who will read? Not a very big passage.
Shall I start?
Yes.
There is no such thing as death, for it is the body that dies, and the body is not the man. That which really is cannot go out of existence, though it may change the forms through which it appears, just as that which is non-existent cannot come into being. The soul is and cannot cease to be. This opposition of is and is not, this balance of being and becoming, which is the mind's view of existence, finds its end in the realization of the soul as the one imperishable self by whom all this universe has been extended. Finite bodies have an end, but that which possesses and uses the body is infinite, illimitable, eternal, indestructible. It casts away old and takes up new bodies. As a man changes worn out raiment for new, and what is there in this to grieve at and recoil and shrink? This is not born, nor does it die, nor is it a thing that comes into being once and passing away will never come into being again. It is unborn, ancient, sempiternal. It is not slain with the slaying of the body. Who can slay the immortal spirit? Weapons cannot cleave it, nor the fire burn, nor do the waters drench it, nor the wind dry. Eternally stable, immobile, all-pervading, it is forever and forever. Not manifested like the body, but greater than all manifestation. Not to be analyzed by the thought, but greater than all mind. Not capable of change and modification like the life and its organs and their objects, but beyond the changes of mind and life and body. It is yet the reality which all these strive to figure.
It is a very interesting thing because the statements seem to be very ordinary, but actually there is a great amount of depth in them. And that depth also we have to sometimes, we take for granted certain things, but there we have to understand the intrinsic nature of the reality. So that we'll have a look at what he said. Now he is telling you, there is no such thing as death, for it is the body that dies, and the body is not the man. The man is the soul, that is the permanent part of it. This is very, very clear. We can understand very easily. But in Life Divine, he has expressed how death is not is not the reality at all. Death is a process of life. Okay, he has explained very interestingly, and I'll just mention that very briefly here. What is death? Actually, death is something very salutary. It is something very beneficial to you. Why? Because each individual soul starts from ignorance and it has to go to knowledge. And how will it go to knowledge? Only through experience. Unless you have experience, you will not know what is the truth. So you have to experience. And the infinite is endless. Endless. So in one life, how much can you learn? So in one life, you will learn something. Suppose you are I use this image all the time. If you are a soldier, what this life you have learned, the essence of what your life is, courage and the capacity to face the enemy. Okay. Next life you are an artist, and then you get the sense of beauty. The aesthetic sense develops. So in one life, only one thing is coming. In another life, another thing is coming. So endlessly you have to go on, and that's why death is a chance for you to get more experience in another circumstances. Sometimes this is also what happens in the bank also. Suppose there is or even in medicine also. When you are an intern, you are put into different departments to gather experience. One department you are there, you gather experience. Then you go to another department and get experience. This is the same thing with the internees in the bank also. They are trained, basic training given, and then they are sometimes in the finance, or sometimes they are put in with the public, and they are sometimes put into other things. Okay, so this is the way. So death is really the chance that nature is giving you to have infinite experience in infinite number of bodies. So death is not something negative at all. It is something positive. That's what he's saying. So this he explains in the Latin one. Okay. There is no, but in the Gita it is not there. And Gita is just saying there is no such thing as death. And the Gita says no such thing as death in a very interesting manner. We'll have a look at that. You see? For it is the body that dies, and the body is not the man. That which really is cannot go out of existence, though it may change the forms through which it appears, just as that which is non-existent cannot come into being. Okay? So this is the second chapter, 16th verse. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata, avinashi tu tad vidhi, yena sarvamidam tam. Yeah. Remember, Tarika?
Yeah. All these verses are one of the very enlightening verses. All these.
So it says that that which is existence can never go out of existence. Even your body does not go out of existence. It becomes matter and again gets recycled into another body. Exactly in the same way. And even science tells you that the total energy in a system does not decay or increase. It only changes form. Okay? So this is a very, very fundamental truth, which we don't think of it in that way. Nothing that does not exist cannot come into existence. And why is this? Because the divine is everything. And the divine can never go out of existence. He is himself existence. So this is a very fundamental truth, but we never think of it in that way. That which exists can never go out of existence. It can change form. Your body will decay, change matter, and again take another body. Okay, not necessarily a human body or any body, but body. It can become different matter altogether. That's what he's saying. Then he explains. This is the Gita is giving in a very fundamental statement. That which is in existence can never go out of existence. That which is not in existence can never come into existence. Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvamidam tatam. By whom all this universe is extended, that can never go out of existence. Okay? So, the soul is and cannot cease to be. Okay? So, this opposition of is and is not, this balance of being and becoming, which is the mind's view of existence, finds its end in the realization of the soul as a one imperishable self by whom all this universe has been extended. This is almost a translation which Ramdas has given here without saying it is translation. Finite bodies have an end. Antavanta ime deha. So that also is next one, the 17th verse. So finite bodies have an end, but that which possesses and uses the body is infinite, illimitable, eternal, indestructible. And the Gita goes to a very far away with this description. It casts away old and takes up new bodies as a man changes worn out raiment for new. And what is there in this to grieve at and recoil and shrink? It's very easy to say that, but even then, even when we know this theoretically, when someone dear to us passes away, then we have a tendency to grieve because he vitally is more important than the mind. Has got a stronger grip on you. So, yes, theoretically I know that I should not grieve, but still there is a sense of loss. Okay, so and what is there to grieve at and recoil and shrink? This is not born, nor does it die, nor is it a thing that comes into being once and passing away will never come into being again. It is not like that. It is unborn, aja, ancient, nitya, sempiternal, shashvatoyam. Sempiternal is a very interesting word. Eternal and sempiternal are really the same thing. Okay? In English, you have several like that. Okay, interesting words which they add a prefix to it, but the meaning remains the same. Sempiternal.
That must be for the poetry, no, sometimes.
Yes.
Because you need to, for the meter or something, you need to add. Maybe for that.
That's right, because of the meter. It is unborn, ancient, sempiternal. It is not slain with the slaying of the body. Who can slay the immortal spirit? Weapons slay it not. Okay, so Naiva chindanti shastrani.
Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, na chainam kledayanti apo, na shoshayati marutam.
That's right. Nitya sarvagata sanur achaloyam sanatana. That's right. I've got it. I don't have it by heart like Tarika has, but I have got it written down in my book.
No, all these verses, no, they are like we had to learn by heart this.
Yes, if you learn by heart, it's very good. You know, we used to have Archana Di. What's her name?
Chinmaydi.
Chinmaydi, that's right. And she had the whole Gita by heart. Tarika, you also have the whole thing by heart?
Not whole thing, but a few of them, yes. Like all these verses, I know.
Yeah,
that we are talking about now today, those I know.
Yeah.
This one is that dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatra namuhyati.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so this is what the Gita is saying. You cannot slay the immortal soul. It is untouched. It cannot be. Weapons cleave it not, nor the fire burn, nor the waters drench it, nor the wind dry. Eternally stable, immobile, all-pervading. It is forever and forever. Not manifested like the body, but greater than all manifestation. Not to be analyzed by the thought, but greater than all mind. not capable of change and modification like the life and its organs and their objects, but beyond the changes of mind and life and body. It is yet the reality which all these strive to figure. The individual soul is individual, no doubt about it. But it is something yena sarvam idam tatam. Okay? The whole universe. So the soul can become as large as the universe. That's a cosmic consciousness. Okay? And I might as well very interestingly mention here how Mother said that the psychic being, normally it's in the Upanishads, it's described as no larger than the thumb of a man. Angushta matra purusha. But Mother saw the psychic being of the American lady, um, I forget her name. Anyway, so she used to deal with the American correspondence. So she saw, when she came to Mother, she saw the psychic being behind her larger than the body. And then Mother got the idea that probably this is going to be the supramental body. Okay? So it's a psychic being which can become even subtle physical, supramental matter, it can become much, much larger. Not the word, not manifested like the body, but greater than all manifestation. It can become as vast as the manifestation, not to be analyzed by the thought, achintyam, but greater than all mind, not capable of change and modification like the life and its organs and their objects, but beyond the changes of mind and life and body. It is yet the reality which all these strive to figure. All these, the body, mind, life, are trying to replicate it and become representatives of it. They are all symbols. Okay? So we go to the next one. Even if the truth. Who will read? Tarika has read now. Either Archana Di or
Shilpa can read.
yeah, Pallavi, read. You can read. Even if the truth.
Even if the truth of our being were a thing less sublime, vast, intangible by death and life, if the self were constantly subject to birth and death, still the death of beings ought not to be a cause of sorrow, for that is an inevitable circumstance of the soul's self manifestation. Its birth is an appearing out of some state in which it is not non existent but unmanifest to our mortal senses. Its death is a return to that unmanifest world or condition, and out of it will again appear in the physical manifestation. The to do made by the physical mind and senses about death and the horror of death, whether on the sick bed or the battlefield, is the most ignorant of nervous clamors. Our sorrow for the death of men is an ignorant grieving for those for whom there is no cause to grieve, since they have neither gone out of existence nor suffered any painful or terrible change of condition, but are beyond death, no less in being and no more unhappy in circumstance than in life. But in reality, the higher truth is the real truth. All are that self, that one, that divine whom we look on and speak and hear of as the wonderful beyond our comprehension. For after all, our seeking and declaring of knowledge and learning from those who have knowledge, no human mind has ever known this absolute. It is this which is here veiled by the world, the master of the body. All life is only its shadow, the coming of the soul into physical manifestation, and our passing out of it by death is only one of its minor movements. When we have known ourselves as this, then to speak of ourselves as slayer or slain is an absurdity. One thing only is the truth in which we have to live, the eternal manifesting itself as the soul of man in the great cycle of its pilgrimage with birth and death for milestones, with worlds beyond as testing places, with all circumstances of life, happy or unhappy, as the means of our progress and battle and victory, and with immortality as the home to which the soul travels.
That last several sentences is a very, very clear image. It's a journey. You are journeying from death to the final home where you are eternally, you get immortality. And that's your home, the home of the soul. So it's a journey. And there are interesting milestones, okay? Very interesting image he is giving. The resting places. You have come this far, you have come that far, all highways have got the distance to the destination. So he is using these very interesting milestones, how far you have come. Okay, so it tells you that. Okay, so let's read the each sentence. Very easy, nothing very difficult. Even if the truth of our being were a thing less sublime, okay, it is, you are not the, he has given you the ultimate truth. The soul is the reality and not the body mind life. But even if that were not so, then also you don't need to grieve. That's what he is telling. Even if the truth of our being were a thing less sublime, vast, less intangible by death and life, if the self were constantly subject to birth and death, still the death of being ought not to be a cause of sorrow. It's a body that is having birth and death. But even if the soul had birth and death, because then again it will take birth. So even if the soul is subject to birth and death, you don't need to sorrow because you will take birth again. That's what he's saying. Of course, it doesn't happen like that, but he's trying to explain to Arjuna. Still, the death of beings ought not to be a cause of sorrow, for that is an inevitable circumstance of the soul's self-manifestation. It comes into existence and goes out of existence. It takes a subtle form, then it takes a gross form, and then it loses the gross form and again takes a subtle form. This is happening all the time in the physical world also. We know that. Water can be made into ice, solid, it can be made into liquid, and it can even be made to disappear into a water vapor. That's what happens all the time. Even the oceans are being heated and the water vapor goes up into clouds and again comes back into the sea. So this is happening all the time. That which is true for the soul is also true for everything in the physical world. There is a constant recycling that happens. So that's what it is. Its birth is an appearing out of some state in which it is not non-existent, but only in a subtle form which your senses are not able to see. Change your senses and you will be able to see that it has not gone out of existence. Its birth is an appearing out of some state in which it is not non-existent but unmanifest. The difference is coming into view and not coming into view. Unmanifest world or condition, and out of it will again appear in the physical manifestation. The to do is a very interesting, is a very colloquial thing actually. Okay, the hustle and bustle of life. Okay, it's a colloquial expression, but it's a hustle and bustle of life. The fuss that we make about physical things, the to do made by the physical mind and senses about death, we make too much out of it. That's what he means by the to do. The physical mind and senses about death and the horror of death, whether on the sick bed or the battlefield, is the most ignorant of nervous clamors. It belongs only to the vital and the body. Nervous clamor. Clamor is unnecessary noise you are making. That's what it is. Our sorrow for the death of men is an ignorant grieving for those for whom there is no cause to grieve. This is also established now even by science, semi-science if you want, but they have done research, NDE, the near-death experience, and the soul when it goes out of the body-mind life, it becomes wonderful condition. There is no suffering, there is no pain, there is only positive things. Okay? There is love, there is sighting of light, there is only the most pleasant things can happen to you. So, but the ones who are left behind are the ones who have this sorrow. So, they have neither gone out of existence nor suffered any painful or terrible change of condition, but are beyond death, no less in being and no more unhappy in that circumstance than in life. But in reality, the higher truth is the real truth, not the lower. The lower is the bottom and life. All are that self. Everything, all are that self. That one, that divine, whom we look on and speak and hear of as the wonderful beyond our comprehension. For after all our seeking and declaring of knowledge and learning from those who have the knowledge, no human mind has ever known this absolute. This is the, I think he is referring to the 29th verse. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidhenam ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya. The ones sometimes speak of it, sometimes they look at it. Okay. Ascharyavat chainam anyah shrinoti. You listen to it. Okay. Shrutva epenam veda na chaiva kaschid. No one knows it. That's what he's saying. You speak about it, you nobody has really knows what it is. That's what he is referring to here. No human mind has ever known this absolute. So Srila is going on translating, but he has not given it as verse. He has given it as a prose. It is this which is here veiled by the word, the master of the body. Not only master of the body, but also master of the vital and the mind. But he is speaking here only of the body because of Arjuna. Arjuna is thinking that the body will disappear. It is this which is here veiled by the world. The world is the gross world which is hiding the subtle world. Master of the body. All life is only a shadow. We constantly use this image of the shadow and the reality. There is a resemblance between the two, but it's only a very distorted resemblance. Out of the death, all life is only shadow. The coming of the soul into physical manifestation and our passing out of it by death is only one of its minor movements. When we have known ourselves as this, then to speak of ourselves as slayer or slain is an absurdity. That's it. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. He is referring to that. Nayam hanti na evam vetti hantaram yat chainam manyate hatam. Neither are you killed nor are you the killer. That's what he says. Verse 19 from chapter 2. He is translating everything, but not as shlokas. So when we have known ourselves as this, then to speak of ourselves as slayer or slain is an absurdity. One thing only is the truth in which we have to live. The eternal manifesting itself as the soul of man in the great cycle of its pilgrimage, with birth and death for milestones, with worlds beyond as resting places, with all the circumstances of life, happy or unhappy, as a means of our progress and battle and victory, and with immortality as a home to which the soul travels. Srila is so fond of constantly using images. Now look at this image and see how apt it is. Okay, it's a journey. The soul is on a journey. It is starting from ignorance and going to knowledge. And what is it doing? Look at all this. Even every detail is an image. One thing only is the truth in which we have to live. And what is that? The eternal manifesting itself as the soul. Even the soul of man is really the divine. That's what he's saying. In the great cycle of its pilgrimage. So it's not only an ordinary journey, but it's a pilgrimage. You are going to something holy. No? An ordinary journey is not a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage is a journey which ends in a holy place. Either a temple or something holy. Okay? So, and birth and death are the milestones. Every time you take birth and every time you come out of the physical world, it's a milestone. With worlds beyond as resting places. Now note that. Okay. Sometimes on your journey also, you have to break journey and rest in some place when you resume the journey the next day. So how interesting the image. With all the circumstances of life, happy or unhappy, as the means of our progress and battle and victory, and with immortality as the home, the final destination is immortality, to which our soul travels. So you can, all these words indicate the image. Very interesting. Uh, Pilgrimage, milestones, resting places, okay, and finally home. So all this gives you the image. This is a very interesting exercise with those texts. I always ask the children to unravel the image. And in Savitri, you have almost every sentence is an image. It's very interesting. A metaphor or a simile. Okay, so 8:29. We have 6 minutes. Shall we read the next one?
Ranganath, I have to go. I have to
Okay. Okay. So then, what shall we do? Shall we stop here today? Because it's only.
Because this was a very big paragraph.
It's a very big para, and we will not be able to finish it. I think we drop it today. Okay? And
Can
also,
I ask you a question?
yes, we can do that. We can ask questions and talk. Okay.
You know, everybody who has this near-death experience, they always talk of a certain bliss, peace, light, and things like that, which
Yes.
makes them very happy and free of pain.
Yes.
But when one dies, you leave the physical body,
Yes.
but then you enter into the vital world, no, which may or may not be good. So is one going directly into the psychic being to feel that?
No. It depends at which level of development you are. For instance, its journey starts from immortality, from mortality, and you are, in the beginning, you are not even a human being, no? You are an animal, and even at the lowest level of animal. So this is a thing that you have to understand. Depends at which level of consciousness you are. Suppose a worm, okay? We start with a worm. The worm is only matter with a little bit of life in it, mostly matter. So when the body dies, it comes back again and takes matter from the life world itself, from the prana. It doesn't go higher than that. Now take a slightly larger animal. Okay, all the insects, they will take the consciousness which is most undeveloped in that, will again come into matter and take another insect form or whatever. Okay. Now if you take away a cat, okay, it will go to a higher level of the life plane. That's all. Okay. And when you come to a human being, the mind has come into existence. So you can, when the body is shed, the vital also, if it is capable of shedding, it will go to the mental level and take birth again. When that happens, you remember your past life. But the developed man can go beyond the body, he can go beyond the vital, he can also go beyond the mind, and his soul goes into the psychic world. So, and there he takes stock of all that has happened in life, he reviews his life and takes birth again. So everybody does not go to the psychic being. In fact, the animal doesn't have a psychic being, it has only a soul. So it depends at which level you are. Even human beings sometimes don't go to the psychic world. They go only up to the mental world and take birth again. And when that happens, the memory of the previous life is fresh. So all cases of reincarnation, that's why it's very interesting. They are usually accidents or even murders. It's very interesting. Accidents or murders. Then the ones who are not coming back from the mental world, they don't remember. There, because the mind has dissolved. The individual mind is dissolved. So the record is not there. The essence is there in the intraconscious. but not the details. But in the case of those who are not developed, okay, they go to the mind and all the mind is not yet dissolved, and they come back with that previous mind and they remember details. This is the reincarnation that takes place normally. But a developed person, he goes into the psychic world and comes back, and his old mind and old vital have dissolved. So only remember the essence, but not the details. Is it possible to retain the details? Yes, if you go to a higher level of consciousness. Those who are yogically developed, they can not remember, but recover their past lives. They won't remember, but recover. And recovery leads to memory. That's an interesting part.
So, if
Rangana, one
somebody,
question.
Yeah, one by one.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
okay, so if someone is open to their psychic being, then
Yes.
would they know that, oh, in my last life I was X, and in the life before I was Y, and then I was Z? Would they remember if they are open to the psychic being?
I think so. I think it is possible, but depends to what extent you are conscious of a psychic being. I don't think that you need to necessarily go to the self. I'm not sure of that. But psychic being, if you are completely identified with your psychic being, the psychic being knows what it has done in past lives. So it can recover. I think so. I think what you're asking is sure, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think it's possible. If you go to the self, definitely it is possible. If you are stationed permanently in the self, certainly you know. Mother has said so many of her past lives she has spoken about. Okay? And Srimda also has spoken very, only hinted at. He says that he was there in ancient Greece once. And Amar asked him once. Okay? Amar asked Srimdo what were his past lives. And Srimdo told him in a very general way. He said that you must have been in this place, you must have been in that place. So he gives him a very general statement, but not the details of the life. Okay. So, Pallavi, you are asking.
Yes, Rangana, but a person who has realized his soul, does he need to come back? He may choose not to come back also.
Yes, he can choose not to come back. That's why he's talking resting place in the subtle worlds. So, if they
So
choose,
he may choose not to come back, but does he need to come back?
no, the need to come back is not there if you are liberated permanently. The need to come back is a necessity when you have not realized your soul. Then rebirth
So
is
then the soul doesn't need any other experiences, material experiences. Like we generally, everyone comes back to have new experiences.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that is towards realizing the soul, or it is just to have experiences?
Yeah, no. When you have experience, you are becoming wiser and wiser, na? So you have more and more knowledge. So all experience leads to knowledge, and knowledge also needs to wisdom. And finally, you realize that you are the soul. So all experience only is a journey on the path. That's why the image of the journey is so important. So
So then a realized soul doesn't need to come back.
not necessarily. In fact, they are so happy with what they have achieved that they don't need to come back. It's only Sriranga who is insisting. Come back and help the others. Yeah.
My understanding is that one is a realized soul and living in psychic bliss and all that. But
Yes.
then it can offer to the divine that if you want me to go down and do some work for you, I shall go down.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yes, of course. One who is liberated can ask the divine to completely take him over. Of course, it can happen. But it need not happen also. No? It need not happen. That was the idea in India, that your liberation is enough. You don't need to come back. In fact, it went sometimes so far as to say that don't, you won't come back. It then went that far. Not that you need not come back, but you won't come back. That also it went that far. Some of the ideas. But that's not true. You can talk.
Another,
Yeah. Yes.
one thing more, I mean, like what I'm saying, it's just that what I crossed my mind, that once you are identified with the self, you're also identified with everybody, with all the cosmic, all the people. So when other people get to identify are in pain or are suffering, naturally you will want to, I mean, like the soul will want to be a part to make the world more beautiful or whatever words we say to divinize it, help in the divinization of the world, to
Yeah.
improve the manifestation or to make the manifestation more complete. So that so it might to come back.
Yes, that is a possibility, definitely. But Archanathi, remember one thing, there is the realization of the psychic, and the psychic is individual, okay? And there is the realization of the self, which is universal.
Talking
The
of the
self,
self,
yeah. You go to the
realization.
self, then you identify with everybody else. Then the possibility of what you are talking can take place. But when
That
you are
self,
identified,
okay.
huh?
Because once you are identified with the self, then also you are liberated.
Yes,
Yes.
liberation is certain, of course.
So
Of
after that, I'm telling, when you're liberated, still you, because you have a oneness with everybody, you
huh.
will feel like that's what I was trying to say.
No,
Not of the
I
side.
don't. Yeah, okay. What you're saying is interesting, but I don't think that's a necessary thing. Okay, you don't
Even
automatically feel like helping everybody else.
Like Buddha came back, no, in that
That's right.
sense.
That's right. And many, even the Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, they were all in the subtle worlds. Okay, and they don't come back, but they can help from there also. But they're not taking necessarily birth again. And you remember Vivekananda came and spoke to Sri Lanka for so long, and even now, okay, those this Ramanashram is they bring out a magazine, and there are many cases now. Ramana passed away in 1950, like Sri Lanka. He passed away in April 1950, and Sri Lanka passed away in November. No, December
December.
1950. Yeah, but even today, there are people in America, in South America, who experience Ramana's presence and they feel guided, and then they come here to Ramanashram in Tiruvannamalai. So they are there, stationed permanently there and helping others. But they don't need to necessarily come back into the physical world. All cases are possible. Remember one thing, there are no rigid rules in the spiritual worlds. There are all possibilities are there. So one can remain there, one can disappear into the infinite, one can also take birth again. There's so many different possibilities. Okay?
Excuse me, one more question, please.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, say one opens to one psychic being, okay? But
Yes,
that is an inward journey. It
yes,
is not necessary that one can even go up to the higher mind, lower mind.
absolutely.
So, if that psychic being wants to go to the over mind plane,
Huh.
it has to come back on earth.
No, even after the realization of the psychic, okay, the psychic can decide to join. It's already, when you realize the psychic, you are already in the, okay. When you are in the self, the consciousness has gone out of the body mind life. But when you realize the psychic being, you are not out of your body mind life. You are still in the body mind life. You are in the physical world. So the psychic being can decide that it wants to join the self. Siddhartha says that very clearly. Okay. It can, when you realize the psychic, you are still in your body mind life, and you are very content with intimacy with the divine and the divine presence. But some cases they say, no, I want knowledge also. And then the psychic being, which is a representative, is the ambassador of the self. It can decide to go back to the native country. The ambassador can be recalled. So the psychic being decides to become one with the self. Okay? So that is a possibility. But the psychic being can be realized even when you are in the body mind life. The self can't. To understand the self, you have to go outside your body mind life, vertically up. If you remember the sentence we looked at just now, okay, the first one, these things, the touches of transient cannot become fit for immortality. If you are still affected by the body-mind life, you are in the body-mind life, you cannot know the self. If you want to know the self, you have to go out of your body-mind life and be absolutely free of the touches of things. So each word that we see here, where one has to interpret and understand. So he has already told you that right in the beginning. Today, the first sentence we read. Yeah? Whoever is subject to grief and sorrow, what does that mean? That means you are in the body-mind life, and a slave, and if you are that, you are not fit for immortality, which means you cannot realize the self. That's what, that's a fact. So, okay?
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, right. So we stop here today. My next student has already come, so I'm going to cut the line, okay? See you on Tuesday. Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.